welcome to the Art of Costume podcast. I'm Elizabeth Joy Glass.
And I'm a 150-year-old, give or take, vampire that has a lot of beef with Lestat at the moment, Spencer Williams.
You wish.
Yeah.
We all wish.
I really do.
We all wish. Welcome, everybody. If it was not evident from the title, we watched Interview with the Vampire, the AMC Plus TV series.
Oh my gosh.
It was Spencer's first time watching it.
First time. This is all I've been talking about for weeks now. I'm very excited for this episode. It was such a good show. So good. I gotta say, I liked it desperately more than the movie, and I like the movie. Yeah. But this just gave me everything. But before we get into this series, we have a lot. This is a jam-packed episode. But before we get into it, I actually want to share a upcoming event with all of our costume nerds out there. I'm so excited to say that this year I will be going to my first Lightbox Expo, which is in Pasadena, California, which I'm stoked about because I am from Pasadena. And I'm going to be doing a great panel with some good friends of mine and friends of the podcast. It is going to be called From Games to TV, Designing Costumes for The Last of Us Part 2 on Sunday, October 26th in room 207 at 11:45 a.m. I'm going to be joined by some incredible artists, starting with costume designer Anne Foley, who you've all met on this podcast a couple times now, who is the costume designer for The Last of Us Season 2. We'll also be joined by illustrator, artist, concept artist extraordinaire Imogene Chaez, who is going to be on a panel with us, and Ashley Swidowski, who was very involved with the actual video game The Last of Us Part 2, who was able to bring a lot of insight into the creation of these characters and how it then inspired the costume design process in the live action TV series.
That's incredible.
So a very interesting conversation. Yeah. So I hope you all join us. Passes are still available. So hit up the show notes, or if you're on YouTube, check out, I guess those would also be called show notes, and get your passes now. I hope I'll meet you all at Lightbox Expo. It's going to be a lot of fun.
How exciting.
But of course, this event is taking place during the daytime, so therefore we will not be joined by any vampires that I know of.
No vampires, unfortunately.
Let's just get into the show.
Yeah.
There's just so much. This really took you for a loop, this one. It was so good. And we're going to talk about both seasons 1 and 2. This is, of course, before the exciting third season, The Vampire Lestat, which will be coming sometime next year. So, which actually is exciting to me. That means that this might not be our first and last conversation about this world.
No, I don't think so.
So, yeah, such a great show. Brought me to tears when I finished it, honestly. Yeah. I'll admit, I had a little bit of a vulnerable moment watching this story come to a head.
Not to judge anyone, but if you don't get teary at the end of this at the end of season 2, you kind of missed the point.
Yeah, because you go through a lot getting to that end of that second season, which I binged through very quickly. All right, let's do a summary and talk about our showrunners. Interview with the Vampire on AMC was created for television by Roland Jones, and of course based on the novels by Anne Rice, who I believe was also executive producer on the series, along with one of her family members as well.
Yes, I think the first season, I believe she passed after the first season.
So she did pass after the first season, but still had some sort of involvement with the second season. And of course, the books are just the Bible to this series as well. We love Anne Rice, goth icon on this show. So let's get into the summary, which I had a lot of fun writing. Interview with the Vampire is a story about a vampire who tells his epic story of love, blood, and the perils of immortality. In the first season, we hear tell of Louis' beginning in early 20th century New Orleans. Louis' story follows his relationship with the vampire Lestat and their foreign family, including teen fledgling Claudia. Many years later, after a tragic breakup, we shall say, Louis and Claudia relocate to France after World War II, meeting the vampire Armand and becoming enthralled by the local vampire coven, the Theatre des Vampires. But like most stories about ridiculously hot vampires, tensions rise and feelings get hurt, leading to a CVS-style receipt of grievances that come to light in contemporary times in a blood-curdling interview with journalist Daniel Malloy. And that is Interview with the Vampire.
So I don't always read your summaries before we get here, and I did not read this one. Calling their tragic breakup the attempted murder of Lestat a tragic breakup that's a way to put it.
It was tragic, and it did break up.
You know what? True. And CVS style receipt of grievances is probably the best way to describe Louis in those interviews.
Yeah, it's pretty long. I mean, they keep Daniel Malloy basically hostage.
They do. They keep him hostage. They keep him busy, just like our costume designer, Carol Cutshall, who you will know her work from One Tree Hill, Rectify, and in the Anne Rice universe, Mayfair Witches. Which
I hear is actually a quite exciting show. I haven't seen it, but the people I've talked to said it's lots of fun.
It's wild.
It's
a wild show.
I might have to get into it because
I think you might have to.
I'm feeling, I'll admit, like when you finish binging a show and you feel a little empty after, that's how I'm feeling right now.
Season 1 will definitely fill that void.
Well, we'll have to give it a go. Like I said, we have a packed episode. We're going to talk about seasons 1 and 2. And to break down first season 1 after this break, we had to call in some help. You would have met this person in a previous episode of ours. This season, actually, we talked about Star Wars: The Phantom Menace with Jennifer May Nickel and JP Nickel. But we also had Laura Brody on that episode. And Laura Brody, who is a dear friend of ours, was assistant costume designer on the first season of Interview with the Vampire. So we basically told Laura way back in May, like, hey, we're doing hot vampire season and it's not gonna be the same without you.
No, we couldn't have done it without her. That would have been wild.
I would have felt really incomplete. So after this break, we're gonna be joined by our friend Laura Brody to break down that first season. And now we're gonna take another break, and after that break, Elizabeth and I are going to get into season 2 and try to play one costume to rule them all, but
we'll see how that works out.
I'm not feeling hopeful, is what I'm saying.
There's too much.
There's just way too much in this show. So get
a cup of tea.
A cup of blood if you're nasty. Some silky vampire PJs. Get into your warm coffin and get ready for some fun vampire talk.
We'll be right back with it.
Hi, I'm Dan, who does all the magic behind the scenes. I wanted to say thank you, and if you want to support the show even farther, go to tpublic.com/user/theartofcostume, where you can buy a couple variations of our logo on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. Also, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and if you're an audio listener, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast. Now, back to the show.
Members of the vampiric cult of the Art of Costume podcast, let's bring in today's guest. She is a costume designer who has worked on a variety of projects and was one of 2 assistant costume designers on the first season of AMC's Interview with the Vampire series. Please welcome back our dearest friend, Laura Brody. Hey, Laura.
Welcome.
Hi, Spencer. Hi, Elizabeth.
We're so glad to have you back. It's been a long, long time since the Phantom Menace. So
it sure has.
So I'll admit, we kind of planned our entire hot vampire month around having you on the podcast. After we did the Phantom Menace, I was like, I want Laura back. And we had already talked about Interview with the Vampire behind the scenes. So I was like, well, what time like the present? So Elizabeth mentioned vampires, and I was like, well, all right, we got to get Laura on the phone. So here you
Well,
are.
thank you. Like, I'm so honored. I'm so thrilled to be back with some of my favorite people talking about my favorite subject, which is vampires.
Yes.
Yeah, you are the go-to on everything vampire. But
Love it.
before we get into the series itself, I just want to start by talking about vampires and this huge world that Anne Rice created, which I'll admit I am now deeply, deeply obsessed with. And I'm probably going to be asking you a bunch of unrelated questions after the podcast.
Oh my God. Great. Let's discuss. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Okay, so you love vampires. You and I have been to vampiric plays together. We saw Bram Stoker's Dracula together. You're just like the go-to source on everything vampire. So I'm going to guess that Anne Rice's work has really been a big pillar in what makes you a creative and an artist. So can you just, before we get into the show, tell us a little bit about your history with Anne Rice and the Vampire Chronicles series?
Well, you're totally right, since you know me, that my love of vampires in film, in books, just the lore, the glamorous vampire lifestyle is such a part of who I am as a person. Like, I started reading Interview with a Vampire when I was in junior high school, when I started learning about what goths were from the new romantic scene, and I loved it. I was like, that's me. I want that life. That's who I am. And I've read almost all of the Anne Rice books. I can't get enough of what she does. And I will definitely say another like very, very critical experience to me was watching the Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula in the
Yeah.
theater when I was in high school. Like, that stuck with me.
It's just very core to who you are. And I know, I mean, since then you've become a lover of New Orleans, which is very much integral to today's conversation. You've been to Romania. I mean, it's so much of, what we're talking about today is just so crucial to who you are.
Yeah. So you got to be one of the assistant costume designers on Interview with the Vampire, which must have been just such a dream come true for you.
You couldn't be more right. It was an absolute dream job. I've never been more excited to go the extra mile every day at work, like read every script revision, like every call sheet, every production meeting. I was like 2 minutes early on the Zoom, just like, well, how are we going to shoot this? What are we doing? What are we doing now?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Louis Lestat again.
Yeah. So, I mean, tell us about the moment when you found out. I mean, how did this happen? You must have almost passed away.
I did almost pass away. Partially because I was so tired from working on Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I was recommended by one of my fellow costumers in the background department, Augusta, to Carol, the costume designer. And I didn't really know what she was recommending me for, but she just said, you have to do it. She was like, it's a period show. I was like,
You're like, I guess maybe.
like, I'm really more of a like present future person, except for this. She's like, trust me, you have to do it. I was like, there's one exception, and this is anything Victorian, Edwardian, or like vampire related. So I think I broke out in a cold sweat. I was like, I would do whatever to get the job. Like, I was a pick me girl.
Yes,
Hey,
yes.
sometimes you gotta do it, man.
Yeah.
So that led you to being assistant costume designer on this series. First, I'll just say I loved it. It was incredible. And there's just so many costumes to talk about. I almost don't even know where to start with the show. But so let's just set the scene a little bit. So you were assistant costume designer on season one of two, I believe.
Yes.
So while you were on location in New Orleans, you had a huge role in Los Angeles because, like we said, there is a couple costumes in this show. And we're not just talking about Louis Lestat and Claudia. I mean, there is a million and two costumes. Yeah. So can you walk us through what this process looked like for you?
Well, you're totally right. It was not just Louis Lestat and Claudia and Daniel Malloy and Armand. It was the whole cast of characters. There were so many supporting characters that were in each episode that were throughout season one. And it's like a sprint and a marathon at the same time.
Quite a few of these characters also become, shall we say, food for our favorite vampires. So, I mean, tell us a little bit about the multiples game and how many costumes you think. I mean, were you shocked by the amount of people that were constantly turning into Lestat's meal every day? That must have been very mind-boggling.
Absolutely. So to both of those questions, like the logistics of the volume of costumes to come from Los Angeles to get to New Orleans, that was like a whole bear in itself. And we had so many costumers just pulling, like shipping every single day to get those costumes to New Orleans on time. And then the multiples. So
I'm getting a headache already just thinking about it.
So like every time you get a new script and you get the breakdown from the supervisor, like who's doing what, what's the action, and it's always Louis and Lestat or Claudia, like who are they going to kill this episode, and how are they going to kill them?
You're like, please tell me they're wearing bibs in this episode.
I think there was a bib. Initially, there was supposed to be like a crawfish boil, but it turned into a pig roast. That was like the wedding reception. Thankfully, nobody died, but I do think that's where Lestat was like being real shady with Louis's mom. But that's
right.
One of my favorite moments.
Honestly, she had it coming. I'm just going to put that on the record.
I think they both did. Yeah. I think that conversation was like, well, but yeah, that was really, that was a logistical challenge, getting all the multiples. And it would be Louis and Lestat, or Claudia would need multiples, and their victim needed multiples.
Oh gosh.
And it was like period reproduction.
Right.
That's a lot.
I turned over every bolt of period fabric in Los Angeles like a few times trying to make this happen. So how the process worked with multiples would be, we would source vintage costumes from costume houses in Los Angeles, ship them to New Orleans. They would be fit on the actors. They would select something that was the right style and then ship it back to me in Los Angeles, where I would work with a team to select fabric and trim to make the multiples, and then ship those like 3/4, let's say 7/8 of the way finished, ship them back to New Orleans and have the final fittings done in person. And a couple of the actors that were Los Angeles locals, I actually fit, and all the women's was taken care of by Oksana Shore and the team in person. They had a huge team of made to order costumers, like cutter fitters, ager dyers. There's so many people in this department doing like their very best work.
Yeah, especially the ager dyers. I bet they had, with all the blood, that must have been such a task for them.
It was such a task, but it was absolutely a labor of love. I've become really close friends with Sebastian Ray, who was one of the ager dyers. And I know we talked about this before. We just found out that the head ager dyer, Julie, passed away very recently. So
yeah, and which we're very sorry to hear about that. And of course, also some who we've talked about on a podcast quite a bit, Oksana Shore as well, too. So obviously incredible talents.
Yeah.
She did such magnificent work, like Louis' sister's wedding dress, Louis' sister's bridesmaids, like Claudia, she did such a gorgeous job on all of those women's costumes.
Yeah. Like I said, there is so many costumes to talk about on this show. I just couldn't imagine even trying to approach it without you here. But let's maybe get into some of our favorite characters.
Let's get into probably my favorite character.
Mine too.
Lestat.
The vampire Lestat?
The vampire Lestat, played by Sam Reed, who is just like, I think in the series, maybe someone can argue with me, the hottest and most horrifying character maybe in the series.
Yeah. I'm a Lestat stan. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
I'm a Lestat stan too. Like I was going into it, but it just took my like love of Lestat to the next level. very, very first photo of his first screen test, I like broke out in a cold sweat.
Yeah.
His performance was so good. I was just like on the edge
Yes.
of my chair.
Yeah, it's from beginning to end. I think it's an incredible performance.
Yeah.
And I just love that Lestat is so unapologetically himself. Obviously, he's been
Absolutely.
around for a while, so he knows himself very well.
Yeah.
But from the moment we meet him to the very unfortunate breakup at the end of the season, his costumes are over the top in the best way. He never lets go of the Lestat style, I would say. I mean, how did you interpret his character, Laura?
And he's a dandy.
Yeah.
He's a dandy. I think there was some David Bowie influence into just how he presented himself, but he was like a peacock of menswear.
That's the best way to put it, I would think. But then we have probably another, well, I was gonna say my other favorite character, but there's like 3 choices to pick one from. So, but Louis de Pontelac, played by Jacob Anderson, who I was so excited to see in this after being such a big fan in Game of Thrones. I love Louis' character and his costumes because to me, you could really see like the evolution of this character through all the years. Especially, I mean, with him, you really get to see the beginning of his transformation to contemporary times. I'm just going to point out that one of my favorite costumes from when he is in the kind of the early stages of his newfound vampirism is when he visits his mom and sister, and he shows up in this all red suit and red sunglasses. That's just such a wicked costume. I was not shocked that they were like, you cannot be here, because he looks evil as fuck in this moment.
You look so evil and so sexy, and that costume is actually like a fuchsia purple. It's very intentionally like a 1920s jazz suit, era suit, and we did do this made to order, and he couldn't look any better.
So, I mean, with Louis, in terms of like his evolution in terms of costume, but this is someone who is starting from being this club owner, kind of really in control of the streets of New Orleans, going all the way till
kind of a pimp. That's very polite of you, Spencer.
Yeah. Thank you for understanding when I was dancing around. You're so right. He's a pimp.
Yeah.
Up into he kind of like loses, I would say, especially as things are definitely going south between him and Lestat and Claudia, he really kind of loses his lust for this life that he's created a little bit. Do you feel like that plays out in his costumes?
Well, I definitely will say you can see that Louis is falling victim to Lestat as more of an emotional vampire than a physical vampire. And you do see that towards, like, they do start to look a little disheveled around the house.
They do. And I think it's just like such a change in circumstances for him too, because he goes from being like a very well-respected businessman of the community as far as he can be to losing a lot of that. And I think in losing that, he's kind of like, okay, well, like, then who am I outside of like this relationship that I'm in that is also like maybe not the best for me in this moment?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Claudia, who I think I loved just from the sheer range she has in her costumes, from being turned as a 14-year-old in 1917 to like having to grow up mentally and wanting to have a more mature wardrobe, but being stuck in this very young body. I thought her wardrobe was beautiful start to finish, and really showed that change as the years went on. I thought the fits were very interesting, especially like when she is 14, it's very much played up in the looser fits, how much younger she is. It really shows her mentally aging without her saying anything.
Well, it was a really delicate tightrope to walk because Bailey Bass is not 14 and she does not have a 14-year-old's body. So we had to work our magic with fit to make her look the way she needed to look to portray the character. And a lot of that was just making things loose and baggy and really making it look intentional. Like she like she's dressing up and for herself, and she's playing dress up. Like it's real and it's artificial at the same time.
One thing I love about the show too, the like fun little moments where you kind of understand at like when time is kind of evolving, because I love how you see Claudia especially kind of move into the 1920s, and it's not very obvious at first, but you just kind of see slowly how time in this show kind of really correlate. The costumes are like the biggest
indicator of time,
indicator for the passage of time.
That's very true. Costumes always are able to do that. Like the buildings don't change as much, they'll change a little bit, but the costumes can change so quickly. I do want to say one of my most like special, memorable costume moments in the costume houses was pulling for Claudia. There's a scene where she goes shopping for her coffin and she needs like a special little girl dress.
Yeah.
Like 2 days that I was doing that, I felt like I was having an out of body experience because that scene is so crucial to the plot and character development.
Yeah, you were looking for one of the first major dresses worn by the vampire Claudia. I mean, I can't even imagine if I had known you back then, I probably would have been texting you, Laura, how do you feel right now?
I still reflect about a lot of the times that I spent working on Interview with the Vampire. Like this was just this surreal, special, once in a lifetime experience that I was not able to articulate to anybody at the time. Because as you guys know really well, this was the first in the Anne Rice Immortal universe. This was the very, very first property. People who are not Anne Rice super fans like myself were not really aware that this show was in production.
And I imagine too, it's also such a huge responsibility too. I imagine lots of people would be a little terrified of like, what's this going to look like? This could go really wrong, but it could also go really right, which I think is what happened. But it's such a beloved series as well too. I mean, we talked about the film that a couple seasons ago as well too, and there was such a huge following for that as well. So I really do want to applaud everyone that worked on the show because it was executed quite perfectly, with all the pressure that came with it.
We gave every scene 110%.
You could tell. Last but not least in this season, we have Daniel Malloy, who is just everyone's favorite investigative journalist. I think definitely wasn't quite expecting what we got from him. And I love his just like, he has such a dad look about him that I really like.
But also it's like so interesting too that you get to see, Louis and the vampire Armand too. Do you guys feel like talk about the challenge a little bit of kind of retaining what makes Louis and Armand as well with Daniel Malloy, but kind of tracking that through these decades too. You still it has to still feel like Louis and Armand when you meet them in this interview as well.
Just very true. And a lot of things about the character development portion of costumes is that it's a feeling. It's how does that person feel? How does perceiving that person make you feel? How do they want to make you feel from how they're dressed? And there's always a through line through the character of just their like essential person and the type of choices that they're going to make. And that doesn't change over the course of time.
To Malloy also, I do love that how he just you get to see little moments of him in the 70s in San Francisco as well. And I love that you kind of do get to see that through line with him too, as like this journalist in Dubai as well too. He still kind of has like a cool punk rock. I was kind of thinking like Anthony Bourdain a little bit too. I don't know. There's like
that was our inspiration. We were like, he's giving Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, really? That's so funny.
I love that.
Absolutely.
That's a good one. And one thing that you told me, which it didn't dawn to me until you said it, but we really get a masterclass in what vampiric pajamas look like on the show. I mean, it's a whole conversation about what you wear to your coffin, which we've never had before. No. I mean,
well,
Laura, tell us about the vampire pajama game.
That was such a crucial part of the overall costuming, was like formal wear, like black tie, mandatory attire, and pajamas. It was like a huge chunk of the costumes that we had to source and get on the screen. I think I handled every single pair of pajamas from 1900 to 1940 in the city of Los Angeles. Because it's just like scene after scene after scene. We called it coffin talk.
Ooh.
Like in our production meetings, they'd be like, oh, okay. They flip the pages and they're like, all right, we're moving on to like another coffin talk with Louis and Lestat. I thought that set was beautiful. Their like coffin room, so gorgeous.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little inspiring. Remember when the Nosferatu replica coffins were going around a little bit not too long ago?
Yeah.
Unforgettable.
Yeah, so I kind of was like, that's how I imagined transforming my bedroom if I got a hold of the $20,000 coffin.
You
And
could also have one of those like turn walls.
yeah,
Like they have for
the
Claudia.
and Claudia had, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never wanted to be in bed so much so than watching an interview with the vampire. They just made looking like rest looked good with them. I'm jealous.
Oh, it sure did. And they definitely, like between Lou and Lestat, they wore their pajamas a little differently. So that was interesting that they still had personality and character in their pajamas.
Absolutely. And talking about personality, we get to see a lot of personality in this last episode with Mardi Gras and the ball. This is just so gorgeous. I especially love Lestat's
I mean, he's peacocking pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Like that look, for some reason I thought he wore that like the whole episode, and then when I rewatched it this time I was like, oh no, he has that fantastic outfit for just like a couple minutes. But it's so detailed and beautiful.
Thank you. This is a big episode. When I see the picture, he really looks like Lucy in her burial costume.
Yes.
Bram Stoker's,
Oh my
where
gosh,
she
that's
like
what it
rises from the
is.
grave and eats the baby.
That's it. That is it. Yeah, that just clicked. God, that's such a good one. But then like you have the ball, and then like you said, there's like 1,000,002 tuxedos as well too. And then of course those tuxedos get a little bloodied up at the end as well too. I mean, what can you tell us about this massive episode?
That was like multiple city. We just had to make so many of these costumes. I literally felt like I was in a vintage tuxedo factory. I see in your photos there's the twins, and so we had those guys with like a multiples of matching tuxedos. We had a few of the other guys that needed to also have these vintage tuxedos that were similar but not the same. It was a lot.
That's wild. And also just like all the masks, I was like, that would have driven me a little crazy to be like, okay, like what goes with what, who has like which mask.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge shout out to the entire crew. This must have been a Herculean effort by everyone involved, as you know.
It most certainly was. And this is where having a crew from New Orleans, where they know this, they have this in their blood. They know how to do this in the ways that us Californians don't really know.
Right.
Like we can research it, but they just feel it.
Yeah, we could do a WeHo Pride, but no one's going to do New Orleans Mardi Gras like New Orleans.
No. I do remember when we were shooting during Mardi Gras, and the production went down for like 3 days, and you always get the maps like to the location from production, and there'd be maps with like these very elaborate instructions of like how to drive around the French Quarter to get to set.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh, that's wild.
It was wild.
So I'll admit, now that we are we've just gone through season 1 of Interview with the Vampire, and of course season 2 is great, which Elizabeth and I are going to talk about some more soon. But now I'm just like, Laura, I'm just deeply obsessed with the lore of this world that Anne Rice created. I mean, we have the Vampire Lestat coming out in 2026. We have Talamasca, The Secret Order, which is dropping, I believe, any day now. We also
I believe it comes out around Halloween.
Yeah, and the Mayfair Witches is already out there. I mean, just as a fan, what are you most excited to see? Because obviously this is not going to be the last time you are talking with us about this crazy world. What are you excited to see without, I guess, spoiling it too hard for people, aka me, but Elizabeth probably knows.
about the continuation of the Anne Rice Immortal universe on AMC Plus.
Yeah.
I'm just excited that they're doing it. Like I've been watching this since it must have been 2019 when they purchased the rights to Anne Rice's entire catalog. I'm so excited about it. And I have to say the two that are coming up, which would be the like Queen of the Damned era vampire Lestat and the Talamasca. I don't know what I'm more excited for. I'm if I had to choose, it would be the vampire Lestat because that's basically the coolest thing ever. But I am really intrigued by the Talamasca series. They got into that in the movie of Queen of the Damned. They touch on it in Mayfair Witches. And I just want to know all the secrets of the supernatural world.
Yeah. They touch on it a little bit too in season 2 toward the end also. So I kept hearing it come up and I was like, Laura told me about this. Yeah. I'm very invested in whatever's happening here, which I don't understand.
That was one of the things I caught on this second watch through because I've seen both seasons of Mayfair Witches now. So I was like, oh, this makes more sense to me.
And I'm just very excited to see Queen of the Damned come to life again. Once I don't know how it's going to look or how it's going to happen, but I'm just excited to get into that lore also too, because I know Lestat mentioned Akasha a little bit in the second season, just one word, and I was like, ooh, that sounds good.
This is like a really, really big deal. Like just the vampire Lestat, the rock star, Akasha, and then all the ancient vampires. This is really deep into the foundational lore of this world, and I can't wait.
I'm right there with you. In the meantime, though, Spencer has some catching up to do on another vampire show I think you are a fan of as well as I am, True Blood. What are your thoughts on True Blood and what Spencer and our audience can expect when we talk about True Blood in a couple of weeks?
I'm 2 seasons in. I could already tell you it's been a wild ride for me.
Yeah, that's pretty. It is a wild ride. It's like weird. It's gritty. It's sexy. We all love like a look into this seamy underbelly of the South. Yes. Like it's just hot. It's just hot.
Yeah.
It's hot there. And from a costume perspective, Lafayette.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I do know so far that has been a major sticking point for me, or just seeing Alexander Skarsgård in any of his scenes. Yeah. But
No, Alexander Skarsgård, just period.
Yeah.
Well, Laura, this has been so much fun. Thank you for coming to talk with us about your experience on Interview with the Vampire. It just made this so much more exciting to watch it and see some of your work on the big screen, along with everyone who worked on this show in the first season and going into the second season as well. It was such a fun show, and I'm just so thankful that we got to talk to you about it. I hope you'll come back and talk with us about anything else vampire related or spooky in the future.
It's such a pleasure. I would totally love to. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of spooky season.
We will.
It's our favorite time of the year. Right? And I think we're looking for ways to extend it into November at this point. So
you can.
Yeah, well, we make the rules. So
you make the rules. Nobody can tell you what to do. You can watch vampire movies every single day.
That's what it's felt like for the past 3 months, honestly.
This is true.
Laura, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a joy. I can't wait for some more coffin talk coming up soon.
Yes.
Thanks.
Now that we know everything we need to know about season 1, are you ready to jump into season 2?
I'm ready. I have a lot of thoughts. Before we even start taping today, Elizabeth and I went and did lunch, and I already unloaded all these thoughts just so I don't actually combust into flames in this episode.
Were like shaking. You were like, I need to talk about this to somebody.
It's so good. So I just finished it last night too, before the taping of this episode. So and thank you to Laura Brody for being on this episode with us and breaking down season 1. It was, like I said, such a feat to make that first episode between New Orleans and Los Angeles and all these costumes. And I can't imagine the challenge of all these costumes covered in blood as well too. It was a journey, I'm sure, but so now I'm excited to talk about season 2 though, which was even more fun. It just kept going.
And we have a quote from Carol about the change between seasons 1 and 2. Carol said, "It was such a drastic change going into season 2. We went from the height of glamour, which we last saw during the Mardi Gras party, to the polar opposite in the premiere. When you look at Louis and Claudia in their shearling coats in Romania and the amount of mud and blood on them, those looks are built for surviving and searching and starting over." Yeah. And that's really where they are at the beginning.
That first episode was tough. Yeah. I mean, they really do. They've been on the run during World War II. And I thought actually it was a beautiful episode for them to really show like the after effects of what war did, to Europe essentially, and how they're trying to survive. And I did think that was such an interesting conversation of like, how would these two vampires get through that as well too? I know it's fictional, but to me it felt very real and important for me to understand.
And especially because like you realize they really did leave everything behind in New Orleans, like, because I mean, not that it was easy, but if like Louis had still had access to his money, like it would have been a little easier. But they really just dropped everything and went.
They're cobbling together their outfits at this point. You could tell. I mean, they're probably pulling off dead people or people they fed on, or
they're probably just going into abandoned homes and stealing whatever they want,
which was like Carol Cutchall said in that quote, was probably very jarring at first. And I'm sure they're very excited to get to France.
Absolutely, especially Louis, because he is very much used to looking his best. Carol said of Louis in season 1 to TV Guide, "Louis's wardrobe is very aspirational, and it was also a matter of survival. He could show no less than perfection in order to survive in the world that he was in." And flipping to season 2, she said, "It's very much a different modus of survival, and one of the ways that he's surviving is by not standing out."
Oh, yeah.
But even in his blue collar looks, he still has that same gentleman. Mm-hmm. Can't help himself but be impeccable in them because of that survival instinct and the gentlemanliness from the time when none of these people were alive. He's still carrying it with him. And that's so true. I actually love that quote a lot. It's like when you meet him in that first season, he is very aspirational. And as Laura said, he's a pimp and he's trying to like really dress the part. So dressing for the job you want. And that was his way of survival. And he took care of himself and his family in that way. And as he goes into vampirism, it changes a little bit, but still, he's still trying to be a high member of society. But then when we get to Paris, he's trying to blend in. He really doesn't want to draw the attention, but Louis will still never lose that like tailored gentleman look about him though. He absolutely won't. And it's so strange. There's another quote I didn't put here, but she kind of talks about how like in Paris he's trying to find himself, because in New Orleans he's trying to be somebody in a place that really doesn't want him, but he's kind of tolerated. And in France he can just for the first time be himself, like look for himself, which he does a lot through his photography. But he is so polished because that's just who he is. He is polished and disciplined. And so, Spencer, this show is like the perfect example of like aspirations for a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
Whether it's Louis and Lestat or Louis and her mom.
Oh.
Like, if you're gonna be in a toxic relationship, it might as well be one of these two.
Yeah, I'll admit, like, even we were talking to Laura behind the scenes after we wrapped, and she was like, Lestat's a villain.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, though, I was like, yeah, but I still like him. And
Me
I felt
too.
the same way about Armand. I'm like, I know this
Same.
is bad for me, but why do I want all of it?
Like, and I think like one of the things that kind of like attracts Louis to Armand is he kind of has that same like gentlemanliness. But Carol said of Armand, he is the highest predator on the food chain at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Which is so true. She says one of the things about Armand is he is so ancient and so powerful that he always presents himself as very open because he really doesn't see anyone as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
And coming into season 2, he is having to show Daniel Malloy that he's in charge, being a little bit more crisp and authoritative. He's coming back in and asserting himself as actually running the show. He wants to show that he's in control and that they're vying for control of this interview.
Yeah, I think Armand was such an interesting case study in costume design. Honestly, I had a lot of fun with him. So let's go to like Paris first. I felt like
He looks so cool.
Well, first of all, Armand always looks good. There's never, even when he's like having his mental breakdown in the scenes with, you know, early days Daniel Malloy, he still looked put together in ways.
Oh yeah, always. And I'm like, Louis, you love men who are cool looking.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Because like especially like that first night when they go on the hunt, he's got like his relaxed pants with like the open duster jacket, the open like just bright orange vest, and then the turtleneck. And I'm like, sir.
But then when he's in the theater, though, he's also like very approachable and like he gives like kind of soft and
always just a little laid back.
Because he, you know, he really is kind of like the director or the kind of the one who's keeping these wild shows at the Theatre de Vampire. So like there's like a artist aspect of him, like someone who really like takes a step back, is more focused on art and not like their look at the same time. So it's understandable why Louis is able to fall for him, because there's something about him that just feels so honest. But then when you cut to like modern times and you see Armand come in, there's that one scene where he comes back from dinner and he has like the Karl Lagerfeld glasses on and the Matrix like duster coat, and you're like, someone here is not like the other, and I'm scared of this guy.
So I hate those glasses. But watching Assad Zaman walk in as Armand in those glasses with that jacket, I was like, this one is one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
It was definitely one of the coolest costumes, and I understood Daniel Malloy's kind of like high blood pressure, honestly, at that point. He's like, something here is not right. Yeah. It takes him a few episodes to figure it out, but something is not right. And Armand is really kind of leaving some clues here and there.
He is. But especially because like most of the time in their apartment, he's in these like relaxed knit sweaters, like tan trousers, loafers. Like he's a predator that like lures you in. Yeah. Which is what makes him so much scarier. What she says about him being open, it's like he's just luring you into a false sense of security, which thankfully Claudia doesn't fall for.
Yeah, Claudia doesn't fall for anything in both seasons. Before we leave Armand, I just want to say he's like my new wardrobe goals, I guess. I don't know.
What? Good choice.
Yeah,
Good choice.
I want to be Armand. Let's talk about Claudia. In season 2, we had a new actress, Delaney Hales, who played Claudia.
Yeah, she was amazing.
I thought both Claudias did incredible for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I felt like each Claudia actress was like right for the season that they did, actually, honestly.
I think so too. And the way they handle it, like, I very much thought, because I watched the original season when it premiered. I watched season 2 when it premiered. And when I started season 2, I didn't even realize at first that, it was a different actress. And then I was like, oh, wow. Like, I was like, I don't know if it's just been so long since I saw season 1. But the way, Delaney kind of plays off, the performance in season 1. But also, like, season 2, she's really maturing as an adult.
Yeah, she's seen some things.
And
she saw said breakup we were talking about.
She saw so much. But, like, it's such a seamless transition between the two. They really handled it beautifully. And also, Carol handles her costumes and this transition beautifully, saying, Claudia's gone through so much emotional maturing, and she's gone through so much trauma and survival and loss, and her lived experience has far outgrown her physical, and she has gone through learning lessons of how to hide herself. In her lived experience, she's a young woman. She's really trying to try that on. She's trying to live that. And when she first shows up at the theater, when she finds Madeline, she feels like she's being seen as a woman for the first time. That's her being seen and taken seriously. When she walks into that theater in her lavender dress, it's really like she's the brightest flower in the room. It's kind of the first time she's been able to step out and have her exterior mirror her lived experience or her interior, which I kind of feel like her first visit to the theater is almost like her coming out.
Yeah, it feels like, it starts feeling like her debut, like we talk about in like The Gilded Age or Bridgerton.
Absolutely.
And I really do love her costumes because it's true. Like, while she's still in the body of a 14-year-old, she feels like she's really grown up, and she's seen Louis and Lestat kind of like botch what their lives could be.
Yeah.
And she shows up with so much experience, and I love that she really takes to like the Parisian culture as well too.
She does, yeah.
She digs right into it. I love all of her hats, the gloves, of course, and just like these very French fits in her blouses. Which is why I was so devastated when the theater put her in that young girl dress again.
Yeah.
That felt like such a slap in the face. Yeah. Just even as a viewer, I was like, come on.
Yeah.
That was so mean.
It's horrible. But out in Paris, she really just like takes charge of her own life and really reflects like that 1940s like French utilitarianness, because they were
post-war
they were still starving. There was so much rationing going on. Like, they were not back to being the height of fashion yet. They were really in this recovery period, and she just digs in. And Carol talks about how, like, French women were really like being innovative and taking what they could to make themselves look incredible. And she just really feeds into that, I think. Yeah. And because she looks incredible from start to finish of her time in Paris.
And I love, we had a lunch day at In-N-Out before this recording. And I love something that you said to me too about how at first we've talked about the movie, and now I was with Kirsten Dunst, and she was like literally a child. And now she's a baby. And they didn't do that for the series, but I really like that choice though, to have, Bailey Bass and Delaney Hales, who are not children. But that's because like in a series, a child would be aging, which is totally not what this show is about.
No.
And so like having this young woman who's able to be Claudia, she's able to show the transformation, the evolution of this character through costume, which I think is just, it just speaks to the power of costume design and storytelling.
Absolutely. I think he's my least favorite vampire.
Elizabeth was talking about Santiago, played by Ben Daniels, who at first I was like totally into. I was like, oh,
you would be.
This is a cool guy. I love the very artsy kind of cabaret feel of this character. And turns out I quite hate him a lot. And I could not have rooted for a character's death harder in the end.
Yeah. I was so happy when he died. Carol says of Santiago, there was this incredible image of Peter O'Toole backstage, just in his suspenders and undershirt. And he's got this martini and a cigarette in one hand. It was just so gorgeous, and that really felt like Santiago to me.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, even in this lineup, I'm like, I have to remind myself that this image is not Ben Daniels. Yeah. It is Peter O'Toole. Like, it really looks like, you know, Ben Daniels just like roughed up his hair and like slouched in a chair for a second.
I love it. It's I feel like of all the characters, I mean, really with the theater coven all together, this is where the costume designer and the crew really got to play in terms of like reference. I'm thinking like, you know, cabaret, Moulin Rouge, just French theater in general, and you know this new movement of like technology in cinema that's kind of happening at this moment as well too. But then also they kind of play with like the vampire trope a little bit too, with like especially Santiago's like capes and whatnot.
His red line cape,
yeah, a little bit like Dracula, a little bit. They really get to lean into it. So I just think just the theater in general, there was a lot of fun costumes, except for the little girl dress, which I still have a lot of beef with.
Baby Lou. I hated this.
God, there were some scenes in this show where it felt like we were in trouble or something. We were being punished, and I was like, I didn't do anything.
This was one of those episodes. And Carol said of Claudia's Baby Lou costume, the thing about that dress is that she's come so far, and we're so darn happy for her. We really feel like she's evolved, and we also really feel like she may have found people who understand her. Then to see that she's forced to regress, that is such a horror. Yeah. And it really is. And it's like at first you're like, okay, because like Claudia's happy to be included.
Sure, it's a costume. Like, yeah, okay, I get it. But
and I think she's happy that like her part of this play, you know, draws so many people. But it's like to have her do it night after like just on end with no end in sight, just really gets to her. Understandably, like she's an adult woman, and she doesn't want to be treated like a child. But I've got to say, the Baby Lou dress is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they pick the most horrific dress. It's very intentional.
It's so bad. And she said of the dress, a 3-dimensional dress that feels very flat and like an illustration, but then building dimension into it. I had brilliant textile artists and painters airbrushing dimension into that dress, which like that's really like that's what it looks like. Like when people dress up as like comic book characters and like do all the makeup, I'm like, that's that in a dress.
Yeah, it's very like harsh black lines, especially like in the bow up to her neck. It's
with the bib.
Yeah, because it's working with you know, the background, which I think is I would actually go to this show if I'm being honest. But
we would.
She, works with like the visual effects that are happening behind her. It reminded me a little bit of what Sandy Powell did for Mary Poppins a few years ago with those costumes, that like art style. It's really quite cool. So huge props to the textile artists, because this is a dress.
It's a dress, and I think it's so interesting to see like that the illustration originally had like a baby bonnet.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, they definitely were like, that's just a little too far.
It's a little, even Armand would have been like, all right.
Yeah.
let's pull it back a little bit.
Yeah. Armand would have been like, I'm not quite that cruel.
Yeah, I'm a bad guy, but I'm not a bad guy.
No.
But then we have one more costume that I just wanted to point out.
That you just want to complain about.
I was so annoyed with Daniel Malloy becoming a vampire at the end. That was a cheap shot, Armand, because this guy really leans into it real quick. But I just wanted to talk about the costume moment that he had, because I just think us doing this hot, sexy vampire month, that it's interesting to point out. We just did the Lost Boys. And we have some more vampire stuff coming up this month. I just thought it was so interesting that Daniel Malloy, once he becomes a vampire, goes right into like the dark sunglasses and a leather jacket. It just screams vampire almost quite immediately. When I saw the glasses on him, I was like, here we go. I knew exactly what happened on this man.
He's also like trying to convince people that vampires exist.
Yeah, well.
Like... And he's like, well, yeah, I am one. See?
Yeah.
Look at my black leather jacket.
Yeah.
And my sunglasses.
He's like, you saw the Lost Boys. You know what this is. It was such a fun costume, though. And Daniel Malloy looked good.
He looked incredible.
He sells vampire quite immediately. I'm like, oh, like he was born to be a vampire. Yeah. I don't know how long he's going to stick around. Like, he feels reckless and a little bit, James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause a little bit, but he's having like his midlife crisis right now.
Literally, because I'm like, I think he's just happy to be saved from the cancer, and it's just like, okay, let's enjoy this while it lasts.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that the other vampires are coming for you, good sir. But I don't know what happens next. I would just say you're in trouble, girl.
We will find out in 2026.
Yeah. And with that brings us to the end of Interview with the Vampire seasons 1 and 2. I'm so glad we did this episode. Yeah. I've really been excited for it. But not without, we're not done without talking about our Stitch rating and one costume rule them all. I'm just going to be quick with Stitch rating. For me, it was a solid 5. I thought every episode, every season, just production, costume, acting, music. I don't have any notes.
Nothing is lacking. 5
Even,
out of 5.
Yeah, even the slow episodes paid off later on, because it's, we were talking about this earlier off camera. I felt like it was kind of designed like a murder mystery, but it's like who screwed up this relationship type of mystery. So just all the little parts matter. You just don't know it yet, and I just really love that.
You don't, and like Malloy is, because like I love that like Daniel Malloy figures out like, hey Louis, Armand kind of like screwed up your relationship with Lestat.
Looking at the notes. Some things are feeling a little off here.
He's like, things are not adding up.
I had a long night going over my tapes. Something's amiss. So I just think, I think it was a great show. I'm surprised more people aren't watching the show, actually.
I know. If you haven't seen this, go watch it.
Yeah. Even if we just spoiled the whole thing for you, it's worth watching. But really look, you kind of know how the story goes. I think this show does some interesting things. I'm sure it's not. I know it's not a word for word adaptation. They've definitely moved things around, but I think they actually improve upon some things. If you've seen like the other movie, and Rice signed off on this, so. I think it's good. I
think she signed off because it gets to the heart of what she was trying to say.
Yeah.
And
even if things are different, I think the meaning and just the conversations remain. Are you ready to play one costume to rule them all?
I think so.
All right, let's do it.
The one costume to rule them all.
I'll go first because I have a feeling you're still cooking in there. Oh, okay. Well, then go.
This may be controversial. My one costume to rule them all is Claudia's Baby Lou
Oh no.
costume. Because like the way it's such a story point and what it does to her character, what it does to like her psyche, her confidence, how it forces people around her to treat her, how it's kind of the beginning of the end of her good relationship with the Paris coven. Like if they hadn't forced her to stay in that role, things would have probably ended up different. And the work that went into it, just the visual, the work that was put into it to make it this 2D looking 3D piece of art, impeccable.
And to me, it's like the murder weapon, you know, like Leatherface has his chainsaw and Ghostface has the knife, and Armand and the coven have this ridiculous dress. It really is like what, you know, one of the final nails in Claudia's permanent coffin, I should say. It's an interesting choice. Did not expect that from you, but it's a good one.
Thank you.
I think my one costume rule them all. Well, I'm sure I could pick many different ones. The one that like stuck with me, and I'm just gonna stick with it for the sake of time, is from season 1. It's kind of like early season 1, maybe like episode 3, maybe. When Louis and I'm not even sure if Lestat's there, actually.
It's just Louis.
Louis goes to visit his sister and the twins and his mom. And he shows up kind of out of nowhere wearing this red suit and these daredevil like red glasses. And he's a little confused at why no one wants to hang out with him anymore. And he's straight dressed like the devil at this moment. He looks scary.
He
and
does.
He's having a hard time adjusting to life. And I just thought that was such a fun costume. It's really cool. I don't think he's meaning to do what he's doing, but it's saying a lot about like his evolution at this point where he's kind of out of control. He's really in the grips of Lestat. You know, when you're in a brand new relationship and you're acting up, Louis acting up.
Your boyfriend's gaslighting you 100% of the time. No, I do love this because it really is the turning point in the relationships of his human life. Like at this point, everyone's like, clearly something's wrong. Clearly you're not going to tell us and we're not putting up with it anymore. And
I think he picks the life of the vampire in that moment too.
But I also think it's when he starts to realize what he's missing out on by no longer being human. Because it's not long after this that they change Claudia. Because he's like, no, I did want that human part of like having a family, having a child. And he just goes a little crazy till he gets Claudia, and then he goes a little crazy now and then again.
and then everyone just takes turns going crazy for the next 15 episodes, I don't know, give or take 20
odd years.
Well, that brings us to the end of Interview with the Vampire. Sad to see it go, but please let us know what some of your favorite costumes were. Email us at theartofcostume@gmail.com, or of course hit us up on Instagram at theartofcostumepod, TikTok at theartofcostume. If you are not watching on YouTube yet, I really implore you to do so you could see us
pictures,
vampire people talking about your favorite vampire costumes.
It's fun.
You get to see my new skeleton goat, which is currently next to us. We didn't even address that. It just
our little rat,
which Elizabeth did not like when she walked into the studio.
I still think it's kind of gross looking, but it does its job.
She was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "What?" Like I was actually confused. I was like, "What is bothering you?"
I walked into Spencer's home, pointed, and what is that? And he was like, "What are you talking about?"
Like,
and it's like, I think it's very obviously the rat that looks like you got it out of the trash.
I thought she was referencing the ancient textbook, which is actually a dictionary. I was like, oh, it's a dictionary.
No.
Elizabeth, I'm very excited for our next episode. what are we watching? Already watched, but you all get to listen.
You know, this week we explored toxic relationship goals.
Oh, yeah. This is a good one. I like where you're going with this.
Next week, we're exploring true immortal love goals. Next week, everybody, we are watching Only Lovers Left Alive.
Yeah.
First time watching it for both of us.
And we'll admit, we were a little nervous about picking this film because we've never seen it.
We didn't hear about it till like it had been out for a decade.
Yeah, I didn't know much about it, but we both watched it. We recorded that episode the other night, and we had so much fun with this one. It is a great movie. And just you all need to add it to your Halloween vampiric rotation. So trust us when we say that this is going to be a fun episode. So please take the time to watch Only Lovers Left Alive. It feels like a quick watch.
It's only like 90 minutes, and if you like any of the What We Do in the Shadows, you'll like this.
Look, it has Tilda Swinton, Tom Hiddleston, who are vampires, and they are perfect together. Style icons, everything. You're gonna love it. So please just trust us. Watch Only Lovers Left Alive. Join us next episode. We're gonna get into it. There's a lot of fun stuff there. And in the meantime, I'm ready to get into my coffin and just save myself for some more vampire talk. This has been a fun series so far. We're only halfway through.
It's been so much fun, and I can't wait.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week.
Bye.